Jennifer Keller, the programming coordinator at the Westport Library, with poet Vincent Katz. In honor of National Poetry Month and the hashtag Shelter in Poetry campaign, we at the library are celebrating the art of the poem. Thank you for joining me, Vincent.
Pleased to be here. Thanks for having me.
For those who may not know Vincent Katz, he is not just a poet, he's also a translator, critic, editor, and curator. He is the author of 13 books of poetry, including Southness and Swimming Home. He has taught at the Yale School of Art and currently curates the Readings in Contemporary Poetry series at the Dia Art Foundation. Vincent, what inspires you to write poetry?
I'm usually writing in response to something that's going on in my life, and that could be something large, but it could also be something seemingly small, such as the look of the light in the afternoon as it hits the sidewalk. So I feel that a lot of my poetry is written in response to time passing, and again, that could be on the long term or also just in the scope of a day or part of a day usually. So I try to feel when I can approach writing a poem and then I go after it. Sometimes it's almost like I go in pursuit of a poem, and sometimes I live in New York City, and in recent times I've gone off into the Hudson River. So it's almost like I go out there to see if I can find a poem.
Oh, so have you been writing while you've been stuck at home these days?
I have, in fact, yeah. I've been, the poems sort of arise. I don't really try to write anything with any, set goal in mind, but I do try to respond as much as I can. So I've been actually staying in Pennsylvania during these days, so it's been a very different physical situation, but I've written poems in response to that. My poems tend to reflect my surroundings at the time of writing.
Oh, so would you share one of the poems that you've written recently?
Sure. I have one here. This one's called I've Been Following a Magnolia. I've been following a magnolia in the sound of a metal gate. It opens around 7:30 and closes at 5:30. A simple clinking sound defines the day. The top of the tree, now hit by sun, the bottom already in shade. We've been watching it all this time. We've been in exile together, especially my mother. Every day she reminds us of it. The light licks lower, touching leaves of flowers yet to be, myrtle, low white magnolia petals becoming slightly discolored, and faces. But the main magnolia, so pink and fragrant, is our ever-present reminder of who we are, this group assembled as one.
Ooh, that sounds beautiful. I wish we had a picture of the tree now. So, is there a poet or a poem that you turn to when you're having a rough time? Or somebody that you found during this time that you'd like to share with us?
Well, that's an interesting question. When I received that, I started to think about it. I think earlier in my life, that would be more of a response, like I would go to a certain poem. I think as I've gotten older, I have other things that I go to, practices, I guess, that's tied me through these times of instability, which is pretty much all the time if you think about it. But having said that, I think it's more on the level, as you phrased the question, of a certain poet rather than a certain poem. So I definitely, Frank O'Hara has been one of those poets over the years that I've gone back to often. Also Elizabeth Bishop, again, not one specific poem of hers, but just her whole body of work in a way. And Ted Berrigan also. But yeah, I have a poem that I can read. Let me see, how can I do this? I have it on my computer, but let me just open it on my phone. We can do that, right? And you can edit out
Sure.
the minute that I'm looking for it. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to read this one. So again, this is not a poem that I would think of as, oh, I want to go to this poem because I'm not feeling up to par. But actually, in fact, I think it's great, and it's really appropriate to our moment during this pandemic, because he refers to shut-ins, which I remember for years not really knowing what that meant. He has a lot of phrases like that in his poems that he just puts in there, and you're supposed to know. But now I know we are all kinds of shut-ins. And it's an interesting poem in that it's called Radio, and it's about listening to the radio. And of course we have radio, and I still listen to the radio a lot, but it serves a different function in our lives as it did in this time, which was the 1950s. So, oops, done something wacky. Okay, here we go. Radio by Frank O'Hara. Why do you play such dreary music on Saturday afternoon? When tired, mortally tired, I long for a little reminder of immortal energy. All week long, while I trudge fatiguingly from desk to desk in the museum, you spill your miracles of Grieg and Honegger on shut-ins. Am I not shut in too? And after a week of work, don't I deserve Prokofiev? Well, I have my beautiful de Kooning to aspire to. I think it has an orange bed in it, more than the ear can hold.
Ooh. All right. I don't know what to say. Oh, that's really, yeah, that gives you a lot to think about. Yeah. So if someone who's staying at home has some extra time on their hands, what advice would you give them if they want to try writing poetry?
Well, I think they should do it. They should just jump in and do it, first of all, not get too stressed out about writing something in a particular form, like a sonnet form or rhyming couplets or anything like that. I think the thing to do is to listen to your own ear and trust your ear. And one of the ways that I've found a way to write poetry and a way to think about poetry is to define it by the line. So a line of poetry is different from prose, which goes on endlessly and wraps around until it comes to a period. But poetry is really defined by the line. So I feel like a lot of times just one line will come to me, and then that will, in a way, set the mode for the rest of the poem. Not that they have to be identical in meter or anything, but they do have to respond to that first line. It sets up a kind of a length of a line and a length of a breath and a pause. So I think that would be a good starting point, is to just look around your environment, wherever you happen to be, and whatever thoughts are going through your head, you can let them go. And then hopefully you'll come up with one line that just comes to you from those thoughts and those images. And then maybe just wait a while and listen to that line and listen to your own voice, the things that you hear, like the sounds of the words are very important. Sometimes I write poems based more on the sound than the meaning consciously at the time that I'm writing them. And then later I see the hidden meanings. So that would be my main advice for writing a poem. But in addition to that, I would also suggest that reading poetry is always a good springboard for writing. And you see how somebody uses language and you become fascinated by how they do that. And then that can inspire you to write your own poem, hopefully.
Oh, well, I hope so. After all, it is National Poetry Month still, so hopefully we'll get that in. So thank you for sharing with the Westport Library community, Vincent. I hope that you at home will check out Vincent's collections of poems, either from your favorite book retailer or through the library's catalog. And for more author videos and information about the Westport Library, remember to visit westportlibrary.org. Thank you, Vincent.
Thank you. Good to be here.